the White House, United States Senator Stephen A. Douglas and former Congressman Abraham Lincoln. Douglas, the little giant, led the pack among his fellow Democrats, and while Long Abraham was perhaps not yet widely known enough nationally to rank as a top-tier contender for the Republicans, he remained an intriguing dark horse possibility for their ticket, perhaps, as some ardent supporters began whispering, for vice president. No one knows precisely when Lincoln began aiming still higher, but to bring the presidency within his sights, he certainly knew where he needed first to burnish his political profile, in the Republican Party press, and not just among the usual loyalists who read the newspapers in his hometown. Lincoln had been assiduously courting editors in nearby villages and cities for years, describing his ambition as a little engine that knew no rest. His law partner and political confidant, William H. Herndon, testified that Lincoln never overlooked a newspaper man who had it in his power to say a good or bad thing of him. For now, however, Lincoln still lacked both real political power and routine attention in the press beyond Springfield, and he still thirsted for both. That May, Lincoln made a remarkable move to recalibrate this frustrating political equilibrium. The lifelong and voracious newspaper reader decided to become a newspaper owner as well, by acquiring a weekly journal complete with its own printing press and a politically compatible editor ready to churn out enthusiastic editorials lauding him. It did not seem to matter that he would never be able to read the product himself, for the paper would be printed in German, a language he had only briefly studied but never mastered. Moreover, it would be composed in Gothic-style Fraktur typeface, an elaborate black-letter script no more decipherable to him than Sanskrit. To comprehend what motivated this indelibly American politician to purchase a foreign-language newspaper he could never hope to comprehend requires a quantum leap of historical imagination, back to an era when the press and politics were profoundly interconnected, and newspapers themselves became more overtly partisan, more narrowly targeted, yet more deeply influential than at any time before or since. Abraham Lincoln's emergence as a newspaper publisher constituted but one example of the pervasive and sometimes incestuous relationships that grew up between politicians and journalists in the fierce battles for public opinion and government power in the decades leading up to the Civil War and beyond. That such affiliations, however common at the time, were still considered vaguely unsavory by some seems evident in how assiduously Lincoln kept his own newspaper investment quiet. Except for his private banker, his law partner, and but one fellow Illinois Republican politician, he seems to have told no one about the purchase at the time, or indeed for the rest of his life. For 80 years, his involvement remained largely unknown, even to biographers. Yet the truth is, the arrangement would likely have surprised, much less scandalized, few of his contemporaries. Lincoln was neither the first nor the last politician of his era to dabble in the newspaper business, ethnic or otherwise, covertly or not. Countless prominent officials of the mid-19th century did so with confident abandon, making partisan journalism an integral cog in their political machines. This vanished tradition informs the neglected story explored in this book, how, in the age of Lincoln, the press and politics often functioned in tandem as a single, tightly organized entity in the furious competition to win power and to promote, or alternatively resist, political and social change. The financial and popular success that many newspapers enjoyed in pursuit of political goals enabled them to influence both leaders and events, and emboldened them to report on politics with a biased fury unimaginable in previous or subsequent generations. Not until the Civil War would precedent-shattering conflicts arise between government and the press, forcing these traditions into dramatic and perhaps overdue change. To explore these complex relationships and calculate their profound impact on history, this book proposes to re-examine Lincoln's political life through prominent period newspapers and their editors, focusing not just on how newspapers reported on and influenced his ascent, but how his own struggle for power, and that of most